The holographic display flickered to life in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, casting ethereal blue light across the assembled delegates. Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Collective stood before the curved rows of seats, his arms gesturing dramatically as he addressed the council. Esteemed members, Veltar's voice resonated through the chamber's translation matrix. I bring you news of victory. The human threat has been eliminated. A murmur rippled through the assembly. The Corinthian delegate, her crystalline form shimmering with satisfaction, leaned forward. You are certain of this claim, Zephyrian? Absolutely. Veltar activated. A series of images showing Earth from orbit. The planet appeared scarred, its surface marked by what looked like massive craters and ash clouds. Our strike 3 years ago was surgical and complete. The humans' aggressive expansion has ended permanently. The chamber erupted in relief. For months, the galaxy had watched with growing concern as the human species spread across nearby star systems. Their ships moved too fast, their colonies grew too quickly, and their technology advanced at an alarming rate. What had started as curiosity about the newcomers had turned into fear, then panic, and finally action. The galaxy is safe, Veltar continued, his voice filled with pride. Trade routes are secure. Resources are no longer being contested by these aggressive primitives. Peace has been restored. Across the chamber, delegates from dozens of worlds nodded in agreement. The Altarian Chancellor, his 6 eyes gleaming with satisfaction, spoke up. The Zephyrian Collective has done the galaxy a great service. These humans were becoming too bold, too ambitious. Their expansion threatened established territories, added the Regilian representative. They showed no respect for the natural order of galactic civilization. But in the far reaches of space, something strange was happening. Deep Space Monitoring Station Kepler-7 drifted silently through the void, its automated sensors faithfully recording background radiation as they had for decades. Chief Monitor Dax, a 6-limbed creature from Altair, studied the readings with growing confusion. These energy signatures are wrong, he muttered to his assistant, a young officer named Nix. The source appears to be the Sol system, but that place should be dead. Nix pulled up the official records on her screen. According to the council reports, the human homeworld was completely destroyed 3 years ago. Nothing should be generating power there. Run the scan again, Dax ordered, his compound eyes focusing on the strange data. Encrypt the results. I have a feeling we're seeing something we weren't supposed to see. The readings were impossible. To ignore massive energy outputs coming from multiple points in the Sol system. Not the fading remnants of a dying civilization, but the active signatures of major industrial operations. The kind of power consumption that suggested millions of people working with advanced technology. Meanwhile, 3 kilometers beneath the ruins of what had once been Sol, Dr. Kimhana stood before a massive view screen. The underground facility buzzed with activity as thousands of engineers and scientists worked at glowing displays. The cavern stretched for miles in every direction, carved from solid rock and filled with the most advanced technology the galaxy had ever seen. Status report, she called out, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had been fighting an impossible war for 3 years. Surface camouflage is holding at 98% efficiency, reported her chief engineer, Li Jun. His face was thin from years of rationed food and little sleep, but his eyes burned with determination. The fake crater fields are blocking orbital scans perfectly. Dr. Hannah nodded as she watched the displays. What the aliens saw as destruction was actually the greatest deception in human history. The craters were camouflaged entrances to vast underground cities. Ash clouds were carefully maintained visual screens hiding massive construction projects. Every human survivor on Earth was part of the illusion. Any word from the outer colonies? She asked. Mars base reports full production capacity, replied Park Yuna from her communication station. The Jupiter mining platforms are exceeding all targets. The asteroid belt installations are calling their progress miraculous. 3 years ago, when the alien attack began, humanity had made a desperate choice. Instead of fighting a war they couldn't win, they chose to disappear. Every major city was evacuated into prepared underground shelters. Every military base was carefully destroyed to make the attack look successful. Every survivor dedicated themselves to one goal: making sure this would never happen again. The secret the galaxy didn't know was that the alien attack had been an unexpected gift. Every piece of wreckage, every disabled ship, every fragment of enemy technology had been collected and studied. Human engineers working around the clock, focused not on inventing new devices, but on understanding and improving what already existed. Doctor Kim called out another scientist from across the chamber. The Luna base prototype testing is complete. The results are beyond our best predictions. She smiled for the first time in weeks. How good are the results? We've improved their plasma weapons by 90%. Their own technology, but better in every way. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, the celebration continued. Species that had been afraid of human competition were already making plans to expand into formerly human territories. Trade agreements were being renegotiated. The comfortable balance of power was being restored. But monitoring stations across the galaxy were detecting the same strange readings. Energy signatures that suggested massive activity in a supposedly dead solar system. Gravitational distortions. That implied the movement of objects far larger than any known spacecraft. The galaxy had made a critical mistake. They assumed that silence meant death, that absence meant defeat. They celebrated too early and had no idea that their greatest challenge was not behind them. But ahead, 6 months after the Galactic Council's celebration, the strange readings from Sol System had become impossible to ignore. What started as quiet worries among deep space monitoring stations had grown into full scientific curiosity, and finally, political necessity. Admiral Kethra of the Galactic Survey Corps stood in the briefing room of the exploration vessel Harmony of Worlds, speaking to representatives from 7 different species. The ship was an old human design, a reminder of how quickly the upstart species had advanced before their supposed destruction. The mission is simple, Kethra announced, her blue Andromedan features serious and professional. We survey the Sol System, document what we find on the planets, and figure out where these energy readings are coming from. This is purely scientific. Captain Zethel, the Corythion commander of the escort fleet, looked doubtful. Admiral, purely scientific missions don't usually need 3 battlecruisers and a full marine unit. Better to be prepared, Admiral Kethra replied. The readings suggest major technological activity. There could be automated systems still running, or worse, survivors who blame us for their world's destruction. The fleet entered Sol System 3 days later, and what they found shocked everyone beyond belief. Admiral called out the ship's sensor operator, a young Rigelian whose voice cracked with disbelief. You need to see this immediately. The main view screen came to life, showing Earth in perfect detail. But this wasn't the scarred, dying world they expected. Planet glowed with city lights, its atmosphere clear and blue, and surrounding it in perfect formations were structures that made anything in the known galaxy look tiny. Those are space stations, Captain Zethel whispered. No, sir, the sensor operator replied, his instrument struggling to understand. The scale, they're too big. Each one is about the size of our largest moon bases. But the energy output shows they're fully working manufacturing facilities. Admiral Kethra felt cold fear run through her body. Scan the other planets. The results were even more shocking. Mars was surrounded by a ring of installations that pulsed with industrial activity. Jupiter's moons had been turned into massive mining operations, their surfaces covered with structures that hadn't existed 3 years ago. Even the asteroid belt showed signs of organized harvesting and construction. Admiral, the communications officer announced, we're being scanned. The source appears to be everywhere at once. Before anyone could respond, the ship's lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, but every system showed the same status. Offline, but undamaged. What just happened? Admiral Kethra demanded. Unknown, sir. All systems appear functional, but nothing responds to our commands. It's like something simply turned us off. On the other ships in the fleet, the same thing was happening. Weapons, shields, engines, everything had simply stopped working. But the crews were unharmed, and life support continued normally. Then, A voice came through the communication system, speaking in perfect galactic standard. "Attention, survey fleet. This is Colonel Han Su of the Seoul Defense Force. Your vessels have been disabled but not damaged. Your crews are safe. You will be transported to a secure location for processing." "Processing," Admiral Kethra shouted at the speakers. "By what authority do you, by the authority of a species that was written off as extinct?" the voice interrupted. "You wanted to see what remained of humanity. You're about to find out." The fleet's crews felt a strange sensation, as if reality had briefly shifted around them. When it ended, they found themselves in what appeared to be a vast reception hall, their weapons and communication devices gone. The architecture was clearly human, but the technology in the walls pulsed with energy that seemed far beyond what humanity had possessed before the war. Colonel Han Su entered the hall, accompanied by two other humans. He was tall, lean, and carried himself with the confidence of someone who had spent years preparing for this moment. His companions, Dr. Kim Hannah and General Park Jae, looked at the alien visitors with expressions that mixed curiosity with carefully controlled anger. "Welcome to Luna Base Sigma," Colonel Han said, his voice carrying satisfaction. "I trust your journey was educational." Admiral Kethra stepped forward, trying to maintain diplomatic composure despite the circumstances. "Colonel, I demand an explanation. The Galactic Council was told that Earth was uninhabitable, that humanity was extinct." "The Galactic Council was told what we wanted them to hear," Dr. Kim Hannah replied. "Did you really think we would advertise our survival to the same species that tried to exterminate us?" "The attack was justified," Captain Zethel said angrily. "Human expansion was aggressive and destabilizing. Human expansion was commerce and exploration." General Park Jae cut him off. "We offered trade, technology exchange, and cultural cooperation. Your response was orbital bombardment." Colonel Han gestured toward a large view screen that activated to show the current state of the Sol system. "You came here expecting to find ruins and wreckage. Instead, you found this. Would you like to know how we accomplished so much in 3 years?" The screen showed time-lapse footage of the construction projects, massive underground facilities being excavated, orbital platforms being assembled, and fleets of ships being built with assembly line efficiency that defied belief. "Door unified us," Dr. Kim Hannah explained. "Every human nation, every corporation, every individual survivor committed to a single goal, making sure this never happens again. We stopped trying to invent new technology and focused on perfecting yours. Every piece of wreckage from your attack was analyzed, reverse-engineered, and improved upon. Your plasma weapons, your shield generators, your faster-than-light communications. We've mastered them all and made them better." Admiral Kethra realized the magnitude of what she was seeing. "You've been preparing for war. We've been evolving," Colonel Han replied. 3 years ago, humanity was a single-planet species, with basic space technology. Today we're something else entirely. The alien visitors were given a complete tour of the facility, each revelation more shocking than the last. Manufacturing bays that could produce starships at rates that would take the galaxy's best shipyards decades to achieve. Research laboratories, where human scientists worked with advanced artificial intelligences to solve problems that had puzzled galactic civilization for centuries. "Your people will be returned to your ships," General Park Jae announced as the tour concluded. "Your vessels will be repaired and restored to full function. You'll be given safe passage to the edge of the system. And then," Admiral Kethra asked. Colonel Han smiled, but it wasn't pleasant. "Then you deliver a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them that humanity extends greetings to our galactic neighbors. Tell them we're ready to discuss the future of interstellar relations. Tell them," Dr. Kim Hannah added, "that we haven't forgotten who our friends were during our darkest hour, or who our enemies were." The emergency session of the Galactic Council met within hours of the survey fleet's return. The Grand Chamber, usually a place of calm debate and diplomatic rules, buzzed with barely controlled panic. Representatives from dozens of species filled the seats, their different ways of talking, creating a loud mixture of worry and fear. Admiral Kethra stood at the central platform, her usually calm appearance broken by the weight of what she had seen. Behind her, a holographic display showed the images taken during their brief visit to Sol System. "The information we gathered confirms our worst fears," she began, her voice cutting through the chamber's noise. "Humanity is not only alive, they have gone through a technological revolution that is better than anything in recorded galactic history." Chancellor Mordok of the Altarian Federation raised his main arm. "Explain these readings, Admiral. Our experts say these energy signatures are impossible." "I thought so too, until I saw their manufacturing facilities," Admiral Kethro replied. "They're not just building ships. They're mass-producing them using automated systems that work at efficiency levels we've never achieved. Each installation we saw could outproduce our largest shipyards by 10 times. The Zephyrian delegation sat in stunned silence. Ambassador Veltar, who had proudly announced humanity's extinction months earlier, now seemed to shrink into his ceremonial robes. "How is this possible?" demanded Counselor Zenth of the Andromedan Collective. 3 years ago, humans could barely manage interstellar flight. Now you're telling us they've surpassed our combined technological abilities?" Admiral Kethra activated another series of images. According to their own statements, they did this through systematic reverse engineering of captured technology. Every piece of debris from the Zephyrian attack was collected and studied. But more than that, they unified their entire species around a single goal. A new voice cut through the chamber. "Perhaps we should hear from someone who actually spoke." With them, all eyes turned to Dr. Yalara, the Corinthian scientist, who had been part of the survey mission. She approached the platform with reluctant steps. "I was given a private interview with Dr. Kim Hanna, one of their senior researchers," she began. "What I learned challenges everything we thought we knew about human psychology and social organization." The chamber fell silent as Dr. Yalara activated her personal recording device. "Dr. Kim," came her own voice from the speakers, "your species has achieved remarkable unity. How did you overcome the conflicts that have historically defined human civilization?" Dr. Kim Hanna's response was calm and measured. "You gave us a common enemy, Dr. Yalara. When your civilization tried to exterminate us, every human disagreement became unimportant. Corporate executives worked alongside their competitors. Nations that had been enemies for centuries shared resources without hesitation. We discovered that we're capable of remarkable things when we're fighting for survival. But this level of technological advancement in 3 years is the result of focusing every brilliant mind on our planet toward a single purpose. We didn't waste time on original research. We studied your technology, understood it, and improved it. Your species spent centuries developing plasma weapons. We perfected them in 18 months. Dr. Yalara paused the recording. She wasn't boasting, council members. She was stating facts. They've taken our own advances and moved beyond them, using methods we never considered. Ambassador Veltar finally found his voice. "What are their intentions?" "That's the most disturbing part," Admiral Kethra replied. "They're not interested in conquest or expansion. They want justice." The word hung in the air like a curse. Justice meant courts, trials, and punishment. It meant that someone would be held responsible for the attempted genocide of an entire species. "They showed us extensive records," Admiral Kethra continued, "not just of the attack itself, but of the political discussions that came before it. They know which species supported the action, which remained neutral, and which opposed it." Chancellor Mordok's optical sensors focused sharply. "Are you saying they've been conducting intelligence operations?" "I'm saying they've been listening to everything. Their deep space monitoring capabilities make our best surveillance networks look primitive. They know who said what, when they said it, and why. The implications were staggering. Every secret diplomatic communication, every private council session, every backroom deal that had led to humanity's near extinction, all of it had been recorded and analyzed." "Counselor." Zenth stood abruptly. "We need to prepare defenses. If they intend to seek revenge, that's exactly the wrong approach," interrupted Dr. Yalara. "I've studied their psychological profiles. Humans respond to aggression with greater aggression. They've already demonstrated technological superiority. Military action would be suicide." "Then what do you suggest?" demanded Chancellor Mordok. "We wait," Admiral Kethra replied grimly. Colonel Han Su made it clear that humanity will start contact on their terms, in their time. Any attempt to interfere or prepare countermeasures would be seen as continued hostility. The debate that followed lasted for hours, but reached no meaningful conclusions. Some species called for immediate military mobilization. Others suggested diplomatic approaches. A few proposed fleeing to distant parts of the galaxy. In the end, they were forced to accept a reality that challenged everything they thought they knew about galactic power structures. Humanity, the upstart species they had written off as extinct, had become the most technologically advanced civilization in known space. And they had done it specifically to ensure that the attempted genocide would never be repeated. As the council session concluded, private communications networks across the galaxy buzzed with frantic activity. Species that had supported the attack on humanity began quietly moving assets to hidden locations. Those who had remained neutral started crafting careful diplomatic messages, and those few who had opposed the action began wondering if their past support would be remembered favorably. The galaxy had been fundamentally changed. The comfortable balance of power that had existed for thousands of years was gone, replaced by the knowledge that somewhere in Sol System, humanity was preparing to settle accounts with those who had tried to destroy them. The age of human dominance hadn't begun with conquest or colonization. It had begun with the simple, terrifying knowledge that they were no longer victims. The first human fleet appeared without warning in the Zephyrian home system of Veltar Prime, not with the flash and distortion of normal faster-than-light travel, but simply appearing as if they had always been there. 47 vessels of impossible design, their hulls glowing with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. Admiral Zephyrian Defense Fleet had been expecting this moment for months. Ever since the Galactic Council's emergency sessions had revealed humanity's survival, his fleet of 200 ships had been positioned in defensive formations around the system's 3 inhabited planets, weapons armed and shields at maximum power. "It didn't matter, Admiral," his tactical officer announced, his forearms shaking. As he studied the sensor readings, "Our weapon systems are not responding. Engineering, report." "Sir, all systems show green across the board, but nothing is responding to commands. It's like the ships are working but can't hear our instructions." "Admiral." Korthai stared at the human fleet through the main view screen. They maintained perfect formation, neither advancing nor retreating, simply waiting with a patience that was somehow more terrifying than any aggressive display. Then the communication came. It's broadcast on all frequencies at once. "This is Admiral Park Min of the Earth Defense Force. I wish to speak with whoever ordered the attack on our homeworld 3 years ago." The directness of it was startling. No diplomatic protocols, no lengthy negotiations, just a simple request that carried the weight of absolute authority. "This is Admiral Korthai of the Veltar Defense Fleet," he replied, trying to maintain some military bearing. "I command this system's defenses." "Admiral Korthai, you are not who I'm looking for. I want the politicians who made the decision, the generals who planned the attack, and the admirals who executed it. You have 1 hour to produce them, and if we refuse, then we'll collect them ourselves." The threat was delivered with such casual confidence that it sent chills through every ship in the Zephyrian fleet. An hour later, when no one had been produced, the humans demonstrated exactly what they meant. The first transport beam activated directly in the heart of the Zephyrian capital complex, facility supposedly protected by the most advanced shielding technology in the galaxy. Security recordings later showed 3 human soldiers, Commander Lee 1, Lieutenant Kim Nari, and Sergeant Yoon Tae, simply walking through the shields as if they didn't exist. Former war leader Gethver, who had planned the attack on Earth, was taken from his private quarters along with his entire command staff. They were transported not to the human fleet, but to a facility that had been built in the outer system without anyone noticing. Within 6 hours, every individual directly responsible for the attack on humanity had been collected, not killed, not tortured, simply removed from their positions of power and transported to secure locations. The precision was surgical. the execution, flawless. But the humans weren't finished. The second phase began with a demonstration that would be remembered. Throughout galactic history, the human fleet moved to the edge of the Zephyrian system and activated what they called a containment field, a barrier of energy that prevented any ship from entering or leaving the system. Citizens of Veltar Prime, Admiral Parkman's voice echoed through every communication device in the system, "You are not prisoners, you are witnesses." For 3 years, your government told you that humanity was extinct, that the threat to galactic peace had been eliminated. Today, you learn the truth. What followed was a detailed presentation of evidence that left no room for doubt. Recordings of the political meetings where the attack was planned, technical specifications of the weapons used, after-action reports, celebrating the supposed extinction of an entire species. But the most damning evidence was the cultural material the humans had compiled about their own species. Art, literature, music, scientific discoveries, a complete portrait of a civilization that had been targeted not for being aggressive, but for being different. Your leaders told you we were a threat, Admiral Parkman continued. Judge for yourselves whether our music threatens your children. Decide if our poetry endangers your way of life. Determine if our scientific discoveries justify genocide. The psychological impact was devastating. The Zephyrian population, who had been told they were heroes defending galactic civilization, discovered they had been accomplices to attempted genocide. Similar scenarios played out across the galaxy over the following months. The Corathion trade. Federation found their banking systems frozen, or assets redistributed to species that had been harmed by their economic manipulation. The Andromedan Collective discovered their intelligence networks had been completely compromised, their spies identified and quietly relocated to agricultural worlds where they could think about their career choices. But the humans' approach was surgical. Species that had opposed the attack found themselves receiving technological gifts, improvements to their medical systems, farming techniques, and energy production. Those who had remained neutral were left alone. Their independence respected, but their actions carefully monitored. Colonel Hansu, now promoted to general, established a series of courts that operated according to human legal principles, but included representatives from every galactic species. The trials were broadcast throughout known space, providing transparent accountability for the decisions that had nearly led to humanity's extinction. The most significant moment came when former war leader Gethfer was asked to explain his actions. "We believed you were a threat to galactic stability," he said, his voice hollow with the weight of his crimes. "Your species expanded too quickly. Adapted too readily, we feared you would dominate us all." General Hansu's response was delivered with quiet intensity. "So, to prevent us from potentially dominating you in the future, you attempted to exterminate us in the present. War leader Gethfer, you've created the very situation you feared most. The difference is that we earned our position through survival, not through genocide." The trials concluded with sentences that focused on justice rather than revenge. The individuals responsible for the attack faced exile to rehabilitation worlds, where they would spend their remaining years in community service. The systems that had supported the attack faced economic restrictions and monitoring. But no species was targeted for extinction, no planets were bombarded, no civilians were harmed. The message was clear. Humanity would not repeat the mistakes of those who had tried to destroy them. 1 year after the trials concluded, Earth opened its borders for the first time since the attack. The invitation, broadcast throughout the galaxy, was simple and direct. Humanity extends an invitation to all species interested in building a better future. Come to Earth, see what we've built. Decide if you want to be part of what comes next. Response was overwhelming. Diplomatic delegations, scientific teams, trade representatives, and curious civilians from hundreds of worlds requested permission to visit. The humans, showing the organizational efficiency that had enabled their remarkable recovery, processed each request with careful consideration. Ambassador Thelera of the Rigelian Consortium was among the first to arrive. Her shuttle approaching, Earth through a corridor of orbital installations that defied understanding. Each structure was the size of a major city, their purposes ranging from manufacturing to research to what appeared to be massive agricultural systems. "Welcome to Earth," said Dr. Kim Hanna, who had been appointed as humanity's primary diplomatic contact. She met the ambassador at Luna Station, a facility that served as the gateway for all galactic visitors. "I hope your journey was comfortable." Ambassador Thalara looked around the station's reception area, noting the seamless integration of human and alien technologies. "Dr. Kim, may I speak frankly? Please. My government is terrified of you." Dr. Kim Hanna smiled, not unkindly. "No, most governments are. That's why we're having these conversations." The tour that followed was unlike anything any galactic species had ever experienced. Instead of the sterile government facilities typical of diplomatic visits, the humans showed their guests everything. Manufacturing centers where automated systems produced goods at impossible speeds. Research laboratories where human and artificial intelligence worked together to solve problems that had puzzled the galaxy for thousands of years. And most remarkably, the underground cities where billions of humans had survived the supposed extinction of their species. "This is New Sol," Dr. Kim Hanna explained as they walked through a vast underground complex that hummed with activity. "One of 37 major population centers we built during the 3 years of isolation. Each city houses about 50 million people and is completely self-sufficient." Ambassador Thalara studied the architecture, noting how it combined practical efficiency with artistic beauty. "You've built all of this in 3 years?" "We had excellent motivation," replied General Park J, who had joined the tour. "When someone tries to exterminate your species, you discover remarkable capabilities you didn't know you possessed." The most significant moment came when they were shown humanity's greatest achievement, the Global Coordination Network. A system that connected every human on Earth and throughout the expanded colonies, allowing for instant communication and resource coordination on a scale never before achieved by any species. "How do you maintain individual identity with such comprehensive integration?" Ambassador Thalara asked. "The same way you maintain your identity while being part of the Rigelian Consortium," Dr. Kim Hanna replied. "Cooperation doesn't require conformity. Unity doesn't require uniformity." We learned that lesson during our darkest hours. The diplomatic session that followed took place in the restored United Nations building in what had once been New York. Representatives from 43 species gathered to hear humanity's proposal for the future of galactic civilization. President Kim J of the Earth's Global Council addressed the assembly with words that would reshape interstellar relations. 3 years ago, you tried to end our story. Instead, you began a new chapter in galactic history. We stand before you today not as conquerors, but as survivors. Not as overlords, but as partners. We propose the creation of the Galactic Defense Alliance, Mutual Protection Pact, that ensures no species will ever again face the threat of extinction for the crime of being different. We offer to share our technological advances with any species willing to commit to this principle. The terms were remarkably generous. Species that joined the alliance would receive access to human manufacturing techniques, medical advances, and energy technologies. In return, they would commit to defending any member species from external threats and to resolving conflicts through diplomatic means rather than warfare. "But understand this," President Kim J continued. "Membership in this alliance is voluntary, but the principles are not negotiable. Any species that attempts genocide, enslavement, or systematic oppression of another will face the combined response of all alliance members." The debate that followed lasted for days. Some species worried about human dominance. Others questioned whether they could trust a species that had demonstrated such overwhelming technological superiority. But the evidence was clear. Humanity had the power to dominate through force. It was choosing to lead through cooperation. The breakthrough came when Chancellor Mordok of the Altarian Federation stood to address the assembly. "My species has observed galactic politics for over 2,000 years. We have seen empires rise through conquest and fall through corruption. We have watched species dominate through fear and collapse through isolation. But we have never seen a species earn leadership through survival and offer it through service. The Altarian Federation will join this alliance, not because we fear human retaliation, but because we recognize human wisdom. The cascade effect was immediate. Within hours, 37 species had formally requested membership. Within days, the number had grown to over 100. The alliance that humanity offered wasn't just a defense pact. It was a new model for how advanced civilizations could coexist and thrive. 6 months later, the first joint human-alien colony was established in the Proxima Centauri system. The settlement, called New Harmony, was designed by human engineers, but built by cooperative labor from 12 different species. It became a symbol of what was possible when different civilizations worked together rather than competing for dominance. The greatest test of the new paradigm came when the Outer Rim Collective, a group of militant species that had refused to join the alliance, launched an attack on a Rigelian mining colony. The response was swift and decisive. A combined fleet of human and alliance vessels arrived within hours. It's not to destroy the attackers, but to disable their ships and escort them to a neutral system, where diplomatic negotiations could take place. The conflict was resolved without a single casualty, demonstrating that the alliance's principles could work even in the face of actual aggression. As the second anniversary of Earth's reopening approached, Dr. Kim Hanna stood in the same bunker where she had coordinated humanity's survival 3 years earlier. But now, instead of monitoring desperate defensive preparations, she was overseeing the coordination of the largest peaceful scientific collaboration in galactic history. The species that had once tried to exterminate them for being too aggressive had discovered that humans were most dangerous when they were defending others. They thought it was over. Humanity was just getting started.